Hello, everyone, and welcome to the latest episode of Expert Insights Live. Uh, we've got Luca and Boyan with us today. Conrad is on his way. Uh, yes, he'll join us as soon as he can. But before we move ahead, and Boyan and Luca, I get you all to introduce yourselves. Let's hope that there are people out there, and we are not just talking to ourselves. So, if people can you comment where you're joining us from, and if you can hear us, that would really help us. I can see a few comments popping in. Uh, there's someone on X. Brian, did you manage to connect your
Yes, I
X?
think I did. I'm
Okay. Yes, this is
hopefully
your
it's
X.
working.
Yes, it is. There's someone commenting
All
on
right.
X. They've read through the ticker at the bottom that there's a giveaway. Yes, people, please comment. I can see Walter Reed on LinkedIn. Thank you, Walter. Devi is also commented back. And well, Rita brother Bhattacharya is joining us from UAE. Welcome. Uh, and then there is Walter joining us from Gary, Indiana, I believe.
Yes, it's
And
a metropolis, one of the
okay,
very big cities in the US.
uh,
You
perfect.
advertise it too much, Boyan.
Mm, and
You can't
Julia
I
is
copy
joining
us.
us
I
from
have way too much influence on these people.
and Julia is joining us from Michigan. Welcome everyone. As you can see that the ticker going on at the bottom. Feel free to comment hashtag packed and yeah, you'll be in the raffle. Now, Luca Boyan, can you all please do the honors of introducing yourself, who you are?
Oh, Boyan, I let you start.
Yeah, well, you go first.
Okay, so this is one of those awkward times in my life when it's kind of a little bit tricky for me to describe myself because I'm between jobs. Um, my name is Boyan Tungus. I am based out of US. I am by trade or by my training, I'm a theoretical physicist. But many years ago, I discovered the wonderful world of machine learning and data science, and I switched to that. And one of the main vehicles for my professional development in that world was Kaggle. And honestly, without Kaggle, I wouldn't be where I am right now. And I kind of own my whole, professional technical career to Kaggle. So when the opportunity arose to kind of help a little bit with the second edition of this book, for which I'm very grateful, I felt this was one of my way of kind of giving back to the community in that regard. So this is what I did. In the tech world, I worked for several small startups, and then most recently at NVIDIA, where I was actually paid to do Kaggling, which was one of the most wonderful and most interesting experiences of my life. I left NVIDIA about a year and a half ago, and I'm now working on some of my own projects. Among them, a little startup on tabular data machine learning, which I feel is still very underappreciated, under-researched, and underserved.
Brian, how can you forget your catchphrase? Someone in the comment
Oh,
section hasn't forgotten.
yes, yes. XGBoost
XG
is all you
boost is
need.
all you need.
Yes. I did like a big asterisk by it, and I would be more than happy to kind of elaborate on that catchphrase. But the essential idea behind it is not so much XGBoost; it's that the whole class of sort of traditional machine learning algorithms that can actually carry like heavy load in 90+% of practical use cases, especially in the enterprise, that are underappreciated. And XGBoost is just kind of tip of the iceberg. What's all behind it? So it's a catchphrase that kind of summarizes. It's a very loaded catchphrase. Let's put it that way.
Thanks, Boyan. Luca, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, I'm Luca Massaron. I'm an Italian data scientist. I've been in the business for quite a long time, over 20 years, I think. And 10 years ago, I discovered Kaggle. And actually, as Boyan said, it also changed my life because it allowed me to transit from analytics, statistics, the things that I did previously, which were quite classical things for a quant, for an analyst, to data science. And if today I can say I'm a Google developer expert, and I wrote a lot of books, it's all because of Kaggle. And that's not just rhetoric, because actually my first, writing gig, my first contract was because of Kaggle. Because very few people know at the time, 10 years ago, Kaggle has a job board. And I was, screaming through a job board, and suddenly very strange announce appeared, and we were looking for someone to pick up writing a book that was left by the author and the answer to it, and everything started there. And if you
Which
look
book
at
was that,
it,
Luca?
it was the first dummies book that I wrote,
Right.
Python for Data Science. Actually, we didn't
Right.
mention that. We just say for dummies,
Okay.
and we are looking for an offer, blah 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 blah. I say, well, it's interesting. I was traveling with my wife, and my wife said, "Yes, you should apply. You always I wanted writing a book." And
And the rest is history.
yes, I had an interview, and then they ghosted me. Well, that's common, actually, common experience. And after a few months, they just pop up and said, "Yes, Luca, let's surprise. We want to entrust you, this book." Say what? Yes, yes, we read with a contract. Just sign it. And unfortunately, at that time, I already had signed for Pact.
Mm.
So I had to write 2 books at the same
At the
time.
same time.
The Tammy's book and a book for Pacto together with a friend. Because at the time when I first had the contact with Wiley, I said everyone around, I'm writing a book with Wiley, it's fantastic. But they ghosted me, so I just keep silent. But the news just spread around, and a friend of mine, another Kagler, actually was just dealing with Pact for writing a book. He didn't feel like to write all the book, so he contacted me. He said, "Luca, you wrote a book for Willie." No, actually, I'm writing. Let's say, I'm evaluating. I have this opportunity. Why don't we do the book together? And blindly, I signed for Pact and Willie at the same time. And so I brought 2 books in 1 month or 2 months. Well,
Yeah. What's better than writing one book? Writing 2 books at the same time.
yeah, it was an experience, really, because I couldn't write the same things on both books.
I
Had
can
to be
imagine.
quite different.
There is someone who has, well, Fabrizio. You're more than welcome, and I'll just pop your comment on
Oh,
screen.
yeah.
It's one of his goals to have you on as a guest
You
on
have
his
an
podcast.
you have an invitation.
Fabrizio, just drop a line. Boyan is really, really friendly.
I
Someone who
don't
has a
like
good sense of humor. Yeah. All right. So, gentlemen, let's begin the show. Anyone and everyone who's hearing us, watching us, if you have any questions, please pop it in your comment section. I'll get these esteemed gentlemen to answer them for you. It's not every day that you get 1 or 2 Kaggle Masters, Grandmasters, well, to answer your questions live, and then there will be a third one joining us as soon as Conrad is back from his traffic wherever he's stuck at. He will be joining us. So in the meantime, I have quite a few questions because I can't see any in the comments. Why don't I ask? So, for Luca, you and Boyan both, in the book, there are about 30 plus Kaggle experts and grandmasters who've given their interviews and tips and best practices. So, what's one surprising or contrarian insight from the grandmasters that you interviewed? If you would like to just pick one out.
Well, for me, the one interesting thing, and this is someone who eventually kind of becomes a great grandmaster, will tell you that that complexity is a red herring. So people who just start out in machine learning or on the Kaggle try to get more complex algorithms, very kind of advanced stacking pipelines and whatnot, while for the both in terms of getting good Kaggle results as well as being applicable in the real world, trying to get a better feature engineering or better feature selection makes much more of an impact than actually having really fancy algorithms. So this is one of the contrarian things that no one really talks about, but it's really one of the salient things that you kind of learn. 99% of the time you learn in the hard way, when you kind of overthink things, and then you realize, oh, like I should have just, selected those 5 features and then do a little bit of bagging, and that's it, and then a lot of times those are the kind of competitions or kind of approaches to problems that really work, both in Kaggle and in the real world.
Yeah, perfect. And Luca, do you want to share your thoughts on this?
Yeah, always surprised when Kaggle Grandmaster mentioned that they trust the leaderboard, the public leaderboard. Because we keep on saying, trust your cross-validation, do cross-validation right. And don't be blind to the fact that the public leaderboard probably is overfitted, and don't trust it. But a lot of them, I read their comments, they did mention. Hi, Conrad.
Hi guys, sorry I'm late. Traffic is not exactly, how should I phrase it? I overfitted my forecast in the positive direction regarding traffic.
Well, glad to have you now.
Are you in Amsterdam?
Well, in Haarlem, which for all intents and purposes, in American terms, we would call it Greater Amsterdam, but don't say that in front of people from Haarlem, because I don't think they will appreciate that. But yes, for practical purposes. Yes.
Yeah, we are only live in front of 251 people. Yeah, that's all. Feel free to mention it.
Audience is audience.
Yeah. So we were just covering a question that I asked, that out of all the 30 interviews that we did in the book, what stood out mainly for Luca and Bojan? And Bojan really summed it up quite well by saying complexity is a red herring, and Walter Reed on LinkedIn appreciated it as well. And Luca was sharing his views about that. So
I personally agree 100%. I think this is an excellent summary to point to that. I always use the analogy towards, well, for those of you closer to me age-wise or better educated musically, if you listen to the Beatles, when the Beatles started, this was Love Me Do. And I'm like, I can play Love Me Do. Okay, and I was severely challenged in the instrument department, and then they went into progressively more sophisticated stuff, which peaked like White Album, maybe Sgt. Pepper. And then when they were ending, what were they playing? Get Back, which is a simple song with like 2 or 3 chords, and that's it. They came back to simplicity the long way around. So, but going through complexity, it's a stage. It's a stage. You fall in love with complexity, and you suck in. I know, I've been there, but you do come back towards simplicity eventually, and then you see that yes, it's useful, but it's not a be-all and all kind of thing.
I mean, one other thing about Kaggle is for every rule there are plenty of exceptions. So like that's one thing that you have to kind of keep in mind all the time. So like you don't trust the leaderboard until you do. You don't trust complexity until you do. So like for every one of these rules, there's probably each one of us has like at least a couple of counter examples.
Bojan, I have a personal recollection of an exchange with you around this very topic, when I remember you were like, yeah, we encode everything with H2O, and I was like, that stuff is categorical, it makes no sense. And then you were like, yeah, but it works.
Yeah.
And it did. You were absolutely right. You can't argue with results.
Every competition has its own ways, right? History, ways of doing things.
One of my favorite, well, probably the favorite, well, maybe second favorite, because I came in first place in 2 Kaggle competitions, and the first one was with a team of wonderful people. My absolutely favorite team experience on Kaggle, and we won this risk prediction model that came up. It was at that time the biggest Kaggle competition, 7,000 teams, and we somehow squeezed in the first place. And we had like crazy stacking upon stacking with like 3 different approaches. Like we had the Michael Yarer on the team who was doing C++, while the rest of us were doing Python, and we combining the results. And the final result, it worked. But it was a mess. So like we were trying to reproduce it. It was almost impossible to kind of run all the code. And then I noticed that like just 3 of our models, if you just blend them, like gives you pretty much the same result. And that's what we did. And we submitted that. Like, in hindsight, simplicity can work. But like when you're just kind of trying to go through Kaggle competition and there's all this pressure, you trying to kind of throw a kitchen sink on it. Back in those days, these things could work. Nowadays, that most competitions are notebook competitions. You cannot kind of pull those things off because you cannot run. Well, maybe you could, but it would be very tricky to run both C and Python at the same.
Some people can. I've been a GPU put all my life, so I can't.
Yeah.
Speaking of nowadays, I think there's an interesting question, and a question that surely is on everyone's mind. So let's address that first. So, Thomas, thank you for asking this question on LinkedIn. Is it still worth it to do Kaggle in the days of generative AI? And I believe this was the first question that I asked Luca and you and Conrad both when we started thinking of the second edition. But the first edition was really well received. Should we think of a second edition? Generative AI is coming up. Is it still relevant? Yeah,
Absolutely.
go for it.
Absolutely. Anybody who's telling you data science will be automated with Gen AI models, there's one of two possibilities. Either they are trying to sell you something, or they are an idiot who has no idea what they're talking about. In both cases, I think you are perfectly justifying opening the door and sending them down the stairs. And if you live in a flat country like I do, just set them on their merry way. I mean, getting upstairs, downstairs in the Netherlands is a bit of a tricky, because I don't think you have a more flat country on the planet. Maybe Denmark.
Well, Florida is actually more flat than the Netherlands. So, like, I'll take you. Florida is actually flatter than Netherlands.
Yes,
Yeah,
but
not a country,
Florida has swamps, alligators, and the Florida man.
Yeah,
So that compensates in the dynamics department.
I qualify in all three categories.
Please tell me we can do finally the greatest, because we had a conversation a while back. I'm sorry to share minimal digression. I had a conversation with a bunch of my colleagues at work, because like everybody knows Florida man, the place, like if there's crazy stuff happening in the US, like a guy arrested for wrestling an alligator, or a guy arrested and who claims he had a half a kilo of whatever heroin and claimed the wind blew it inside his car. True story. The guy said that. 9 out of 10 cases is Florida.
Yeah.
And we had a conversation which country qualifies as the Florida of Europe over lunch at work. Obviously, I proposed Poland, but a colleague, there was a Ukrainian colleague and a Turkish one, and it kind of came down to three of us. And people were also throwing around a meme: Polish men arrested after fighting Florida men. I can't remember what it was about. And the first comment on Twitter was like, "Is this the most ambitious crossover ever?" So we got a chance to do it live, boy. I think we should.
Well, there was actually a couple of decades ago. I'll just finish with this digression. There was a radio show in the U.S. where you had to, there was some crazy headline, and you had to guess whether it was Florida or Germany. So, like, I would argue that Germany might be the Florida.
Germany.
Yes.
Germany.
I must have a Bavarian then, which apparently has a reputation for being the, the normal part, the state.
Yeah, well, you should know a little bit about Germans and their crazy shenanigans.
That was Prussians mostly, so we could have.
Anyways, so generative AI, Kaggle.
Yes.
I think it's a kind of nuanced question. I think in terms of intrinsic value, yes. If anything, more so now that I feel like a lot of classical data science, machine learning tricks are kind of falling by the wayside. And from my own experience, when I try to use GenAI to even the simplest Kaggle problems, it's way worse than even the AutoML tools that we had access to like a decade ago. So, like, I think...
Sorry, come again? All those biggest foundations, they are worse than AutoML?
Yes. Yes. So from that standpoint, it's, I think, data science, machine learning skills that are now promoted on Kaggle are probably even more relevant, because practitioners are not doing it, and they're all kind of relying on generative AI, which falls way short in many regards. From that standpoint, yes. From the standpoint, are you going to get a job, or is your boss going to promote you? That's a whole different, bag of worms. Because a lot of times, what corporate or like policy people in these organizations kind of want some kind of shiny new tools to prove that they're doing some AI cool stuff. Versus
where's Copilot marching in the direction of this conversation? Yep.
Yeah. So versus like the actual practical tools that actually work in concrete examples. And I can kind of get you very concrete examples later on that I actually try to include this as second edition of the book.
Thanks for that. And Conrad, what are your thoughts on this question?
I think I started, so it should be Luca's turn, I believe.
Yes.
Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah.
Because no one mentioned about the skilling. We have such fantastic now tools. They can write code, they can find solution, they can basically think for us, because they are very good at, outputting very smart text, very fascinating rhetoric. But okay, we can trust them, we can follow them. Probably we can have a subpar solutions, as Boyan himself tried to experiment with, and myself. Sometimes they come up with interesting things, point of view. Sometimes we are just boring. And in this age, we are most of the people were quite lazy. Myself, I can account for the among the lazy ones. And yes, we love these
Really?
tools because they can do a lot of
Yeah.
things for us. And as we do that, we just the skill. We lose the ability to do things by ourselves.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
Kaggle is the only place where you can, do gym with data, and you can learn how to transform data, convert it into predictions, solve very tricky problems. How can it be still relevant? Is
It's
the
very
only
much
place where
relevant.
you can, acquire again what you are losing if you overdo with generative AI models.
And the
Because
beautiful
we are,
addendum
yeah.
to that, which a paper I ran into like last week or so,
Hmm?
guys, the two of you are going to love that especially. Ensembling. Does the term ring a bell?
Oh yes.
And stacking ensembles. I kid you not, someone actually put out a paper describing how committees of LLMs are a better way of analyzing a problem and making a decision. And I was like, I'm sorry, maybe it's my age already speaking, but that smells to me like someone just reinvented ensembling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is it? 15 years until it went as parabolic on Kaggle or thereabouts. I mean, this is a variation of something that I ran into 10-ish years ago, maybe 15, even more like 10, around deep learning.
Yeah.
A guy published a paper, someone published a paper. This was pre-Gen AI, so Archive was still kind of manageable in terms of the throughput. And someone said that, yes, we have a new fantastic deep learning method that allows you to build a Markov chain, and that allows you to simulate some arbitrary distribution. I was like, congratulations, darling, you reinvented Markov chain Monte Carlo, which on a theoretical level we've had since the 70s, and in computational, mid-90s, let's call it. The ideas keep coming back. That's one of the things that kind of make me feel old, because I'm seeing stuff that people tout as new, and I've done it years ago. So it's like people are rediscovering it. I guess that's what that's what being old feels like, because this stuff and people treat it like it's a new modern thing, but it's very much the case. So the skills you learn on Kaggle, they might not be called the same thing. Like they won't call it's ensembling or it's stacking. They will say, oh, it's a committee of LLMs. What's an LLM? It generates a prediction.
Yeah.
That's it. At the core of it, sequence of elements, predict one more. And then there's a metric ton of algebra, how to combine it, how to draw, blah, 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 blah. But at the core, LLM is a prediction. So
for the people attending Conrad, so for the people attending Conrad, you already gave away your age with the Beatles reference. You started the conversation with that reference.
He was the original producer.
Oh, really?
So, well, we are almost through to the halfway mark. So let us do the first raffle because there are quite a lot of people who entered in. So it will give others a chance as well. So, gentlemen, just let me know when you can see my screen. Oh, wait, I have to add it. Yeah. Can you see it?
Yep.
Okay, there are 14 people who've commented so far. I'm hitting draw, and let's see who the first winner is. It's all random. I'm not the one clicking anything. So our first winner is Walter. Oh, Walter commented as well, didn't he? Congratulations, Walter.
Totally not rigged.
Please.
Totally not rigged. Nope.
No, completely not rigged. I think he commented as well earlier. I think he was the one who said XG boost is all you need. So Walter, congratulations. Please get in touch with me on LinkedIn and I'll ensure you get your ebook. All I will need is your email address. And anyone else, don't be disheartened if you haven't won yet. Comment hashtag packed as the ticker says at the bottom, and we will do another one at the end. Before we take another question, I would just like to show something to the people about why we are mainly here. So we're mainly here for this book over here. And if you can just get on this landing page, I'll share the link later. There's also a cheat sheet which Luca, Boyan, and Conrad have created. It's a 40-page book. So it gives you an idea of what to expect from the main book. So just enter your email address here, and within 24 hours, you will get this ebook on your email. And then, yeah, you can read through it, have a look whether you would like to buy this book or not. Yeah, it tells you everything about the
Of
book and
course
all
you
that you
will.
need to
Of
know.
course you will. Tushar, why is there even a question mark in this sentence? Of course people will like to buy this book. It's the best.
Yeah,
I mean, we are that far from, I don't know, the book that cures male baldness and makes you more popular with your
yeah,
partner.
let's not talk about male baldness. I'll have to start wearing my
You were
Santa hat
saying
away.
here, you were saying.
Okay, we've got another question from Julia. So I'll just read it out. Thanks, Julia. On LinkedIn says, what are the top 3 things readers can expect from the book, the Kaggle book, about using Kaggle in ways that directly build skills for an AI career? So anyone, if y'all would like to take over.
Boyan, you want to start?
It's a good question. I would argue that the most important thing that you can learn, not just from this book, but from Kaggle in general, is how to properly validate any machine learning model. So this is one of those meta skills that is not really taught in schools, or when it's taught, it's usually like very simple toy data sets that, like, hey, let's do Titanic again, or let's do some, what's the name of the Iris data set? Something like that. So like very
Iris is still around?
Oh yeah, it's part of
it.
I've recently seen some papers claiming better than XGBoost and using things like Iris dataset, and I'm just like, I've lost my vocal cords from screaming too much about these things, so I don't want to do it again. But essentially, like, what is it like to have a good data set? What kind of validation scheme you can trust? When do you trust that your model really is a good model versus overfitting to particular data set that you have at home? So that's one skill. Luca, you can have a second skill.
Yeah.
Yes. Actually, we put a lot of new stuff inside this book because things have changed a lot around. So if you want to learn also how to navigate with a new LLM competitions, so find new models, figure out how to best prompt, how to deal with all the new stack of competencies that you can find on Kaggle competition, the book is there to help you, because we thought initially this book as a way to help all Kagglers to figure out the best things to be done without, losing hours and hours, digging through discussion, looking through the web, trying to figure out things themselves. So in the end, just, you can summarize this new aspect together with the old ones. So with a legacy we have from the first edition, we wrote a guide for understanding the very practical things you need to do on Kaggle. No matter you're dealing with tabular data, you are dealing with the new competitions using deep learning, or the even newest one using large language models. And that's another of the 3 takeaways that you can bring home reading the book.
Conrad, do you want to take over the last one?
That's gonna be a lowercase m meta skill. There's like 2 extremes. If you're dealing with Kaggle or building an AI career as part of that. On the one end, I did the bootcamp. I'm the greatest. I know all there is. They told me that I solve everything. This model, everything is fine. Yeah, that is a very, very useful reality check, and it's humble pie served in delicate portions. On the other hand, kind of polar opposite almost. So it achieves 2 objectives in parallel, opposite ones almost. The other thing is, yeah, that's too much. I can't do it. It's too difficult. I cannot touch it. No, it's not. No, it's not. This shows you, it sort of flattens the beginning of a learning curve. Like if you were to start, if someone were to throw you on a deep end, LLMs this, LLMs that, at some point, if you're this person who's beginning, transformers, diffusers, Hugging Face, OpenAI, and you run. Because the learning curve is almost...
You run to prompt an LLM to do the job for you.
What this book does, it smooths the beginning. You're gonna reach the same. You're gonna reach the same level, if not higher. I mean, reaching higher than boot camps is not difficult, but let's not go there. And it shows you how to get there. And at every step of the way, it's like, listen, it's not like this is something the three of us cooked up because we were bored. No, this is hard-won experience. In some instances, well, I'm not sure if it shows, but some of my gray hair comes from that. So this is the knowledge we learned the hard way. And we could do it. So can you. That's the mindset. Like many years ago, I remember reading, like back in uni, the C++ book, and the author wrote, like, I think it was like his first sentence in the intro. He said, there's two ways of explaining stuff. Look how difficult it is and how smart I am. And look, it's actually simple. And we've tried our best to go the second route. Well, it's up to you as the readers to judge how well we did. No one is a good judge in their own case, but we've done our best.
Perfect. Thanks a lot. Yeah, I don't know who LinkedIn user is, but LinkedIn user on LinkedIn inquires that. I'm just wondering that how can we deal with specific problems on Kaggle? For example, EEG, BCI, brain-computer interface. Are they expecting us to become doctors?
I doubt that. If not, whatever American Medical Association is, gonna send a few sad men in suits who will get rid of Kaggle and make it look like an accident. So no, the idea behind this one is more along the lines of it teaches you how to strike a balance, because you do need to understand something of a domain. Like, for instance, say a competition is dealing with sales prediction. Barring some bizarre accounting tricks, you can't have negative sales. Unless it's actually an accounting trick to rebalance, blah, 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 which means, what is it? It's domain knowledge that your stuff can never fall below zero. But at the same time, at the beginning, it might seem overwhelming. This is super difficult. Oh my goodness. Yeah, there's so much data, there's so much signal. Much noise, big success. But after a while, and it's normal to feel that way at the beginning. After a while, you see, okay, I have a huge number of series, so huge cross-sectional dimension, and they are super dense and super volatile. For instance, if it's EEG. But then you look at, FX rates. Actually, there are some similarities. That's real valued. It's very dense. It's very volatile. It's not terribly stationary at some point, but it only comes from experience. You start to see that bits and pieces of what you learned are transferable between problems. You start to see analogies. You still need to have at least a modicum of understanding of the domain, like the demand example, that it can be negative. But no, they're not expecting you to become it. I mean, I think they're not. I did not set up this competition, so maybe they did, but I doubt that.
I have a lot to say about this topic, actually. One of the things that I always loved the most about Kaggle competitions is how, amateurs were able to kind of really, keep abreast, or most of the times actually get ahead of professionals in any kind of domain. So, when you come in, and like all these professionals that tell you, like, you don't know what you're talking about, this is all wrong, this is blah, blah, blah. And then you kind of routinely trounce them. This is one of the most gratifying things in my experience. So that's number one. And number two is Kaggle actually gave me very healthy skepticism about medical field as a whole. So I'm like, all right, so these people, what they're doing is probably, when they're diagnosing you, it's probably some very limited data sets, using very simple models that kind of work in for the medium representative person, not most of the people. And then I've learned from Kaggle to trust ensemble. So for every time I have some kind of more serious issue with the doctor, I always ask for second and third opinion. And then I have to kind of, based on my own intuition, it's ensembling. Yes, like real world ensembling. So these are things that I would kind of try to convey, that do not be intimidated with these problems. They do not be intimidated by experts. Try them on your own, see how far you can get, and a lot of times you can actually probably keep abreast, if not get ahead of some experts.
If I can tell my point of view, which is a very, actually aligned with Conrad and Boyan, I lost really count of how many competitions I took part in without having any title of any knowledge related to the topic of a competition itself.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, I really lost time. Probably we are a large number, over hundreds competitions, that kind. But I also learn through these competitions that okay, I can be naive and just take part because I want to enjoy the data, enjoy the challenge. But there's a large part you can do without actually having any domain knowledge. And there's also a lot you can also do if along the way you learn enough about the domain knowledge to be able to tune and refine your algorithm to the best for that competition. And also a large part of it can be, you can overcome it by discussions, align with people maybe knowing a little bit more of you, with the dynamics we learned, we can apply on Kaggle, and they can really enhance our knowledge because they are based on sharing together in a team different attitudes, different point of views, different strategies, different algorithm techniques. So I wouldn't worry too much, taking part into something really I don't know anything about, because I know I can, really progress quite far without, being just naive. And I also can learn a lot to be also smarter about that topic.
Tiny
Just one last thing. I think in my own personal experience, I feel like domain knowledge and success in Kaggle have been inversely proportional for me. So the competitions I did, among the worst were usually physics-related competitions. I just always kind of bombed those. And then the competitions where I have absolutely no kind of clue, like a women's basketball, I actually won. So like, all right, it's kind of really weird, how it all can work out.
It's also the out of the box thinking, right? Because the people who are especially in the domain, they always think within the box with what they've been taught. So probably all of you coming from different expertise, like your data expertise and machine learning expertise, and getting into that field, like looking at it from an outside in view, probably you have a different perspective. And especially when you say about physicists as well, like you come from that physics background and you're not being able to do well in those competitions, it also says quite a lot that because you've wrapped yourself around a certain way of thinking.
Yeah, it's also kind of physics I did was like very high level, theoretical physics versus kind of applied, more applied physics. So there's a very distinct way of thinking there that's not really compatible with how Kaggle competitions in those domains are structured. And then, as both Conrad and Luca mentioned, like you just need to know enough of a domain to be dangerous. So that's like if you understand, I understand basketball. I've watched basketball all my life. I don't know anything about women's basketball, but I know like how scoring works or how people teams win. So I knew just enough to actually be dangerous.
We've got a question from Thomas on LinkedIn for each of you. The question is, what was the best Kaggle competition that taught them the most, or that made them think differently about how to solve it? Let's start with Luca first this time.
Yes, hard question. I've taken so many competitions. It's difficult to go, into what I learned in that competition because it's, like imposter syndrome. You cannot, really reflect on yourself. But if I had to say something, the first competition that I took really taught me a lot and taught me something very essential, because in the first competition that I took part with, it was about psychopathology prediction. It was something about Twitter and Big Five. Yes. Actually, I started very bold because I just discovered Kaggle a few months before, and I just was shy. And then finally, something picked my attention. It was a nice competition to try. Wow, I like Twitter. At that time, it was Twitter. And I like psychology too. I know about the Big Five is something that we used in the past. I should try it. And I immediately got a very, astonishing result. It was on first or second in the leaderboard, the public one, until, the competition finished and I jumped down 80 positions. So something very shameful. Actually disappeared even from the screen. And so I learned about overfitting. Overfitting is real, and it's something, very basic. But if you don't have experience with it, so in Kaggle, you really can realize how overfitting can spoil your models and can, just dump your predictions completely. If you don't have experience of that, you just work in a, business setting, work environment where you have everything. You can handle, the train, you can handle the test, you can do what you want. You will really never be aware of it. So I believe that first competition really taught me a lot, because I remember after a few years they asked me, "Oh, you are so good at Kaggle, but what's your secret?" And my plain answer was, "I know to do a cross validation correctly. That's my secret."
The hard way.
The hard way.
There's people who have learned to do the cross validation properly, and those who are still in the learning process. Those are the two groups on Kaggle. Yes, in some instances, the learning process takes a bit longer than others. Alas, we all have our individual dynamics. Yeah. Cross validation. I mean, validation is. I think if someone does a word cloud or whatever frequency count of this conversation, the term validation will be the single one that comes up the most.
Yes.
Yeah.
Learning how to do experiments and valid experiments. And that's a fundamental skill for Kaggle, for life, for business, for whatever.
Boyan, what about you?
I kind of would like to kind of offer some of my biggest embarrassments on Kaggle, which were also kind of good learning experiences.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, the one that I learned the most from kind of pretty much starting from the zero to actually getting really good at was the first toxic comments competition. Prior to that one, I pretty much didn't know anything about natural language processing, and then went from that to like finishing third with my team and learned a hell of a lot. And I liked that competition because it was still, I think that was one of the last ones that Kaggle hosted that was still open, not in a notebook competition, so you can actually really play with the data set any way you want and submit any way you want. And to this day, I kind of use it as amoeba testing for all new algorithms. So when there's new algorithms come up or new embeddings come up, I use that one to kind of see like how good they are, how good the algorithms are, and I actually covered a lot in this book. So it's I try to like go from like bag of words to like RNNs to all sorts of algorithms that you can kind of apply to this particular competition. And to this day, I would kind of encourage people to see how well that data set and that competition works for them.
Okay, I'll take up an easy question because that's coming up before a big one. There's a big load of questions coming up before this one. Well, after this one. So George Iuga on LinkedIn inquires, would this book be useful for someone who is just scratching the surface for AI ML field? Like, is this a beginner's book?
Totally. That's a super easy one. 100%.
Yes.
What I said earlier about flattening the learning curve to make entry easier for people and show that this is there's a Polish idiom, it doesn't translate that well, which says it's not the saints who bake pots. That's more or less what this is. This is not like you need an, I don't know, PhD and 5 postdocs and a professorship and 50 years of experience in big tech to get started with that. Absolutely not. So yes, Gorge, the book will be useful.
Yeah, perfect. I think I'll just put this on because it's all you need is a programming experience and a little bit of math experience and some data knowledge.
Yeah,
that's all.
I will just add. Sorry, please, Karat. I will just add that there's food for thought for every level. So is for beginners, for intermediate, for advanced. We didn't write, just a beginner book. We wrote a book for everyone, for all the levels, to approach Kaggle and learn every time. There's always something you can discover because actually it's part of our experience. It's also part of what we discovered on Kaggle. And it's fantastic. Still amazing, just spend one day and dig through discussion, competition, and you will learn a lot. And we try to put everything most important we learned inside this book.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I can't stop smiling about this comment from Thomas. Conrad, you have the best metaphors. Thomas, you don't know the start of it. The metaphors and Conrad go a long, long way. Okay.
I've been trying to behave.
No, you've got amazing,
This is me on my
amazing
best
metaphors.
behavior, in case anyone was doubting that.
Yeah. Okay. So here's the big question that was coming up, and I'm sorry, I think it will hide Boyan and Conrad. I'll just quickly read it and just remove it from the screen. So although Razino on LinkedIn inquires, I organize independent hackathons and challenges, and the frequent question I get from clients is, how can we ensure the solution was actually built by the participants and not just generated by an LLM? We actually include a final pitch competition to assess their presentation skills and the depth of understanding. But do you have any other suggestions for verifying the authenticity of the results, aside from a manual code review, of course, and aside from telling the client to not be?
No.
I
No.
actually I have a very simple answer to that one.
Mhm.
And my answer is, if the solution is any good, then you're 100% sure it was not LLM generated.
Yeah.
Yes, that's the answer.
As I said at the
Alright.
beginning, like I've tried using LLMs for like even simple Kaggle competitions, and what I usually get is very, very pedestrian in terms of machine learning and pipelines. It's not even close to like what we had with AutoML a
In
decade ago.
that sense,
And
yes.
Conrad, if I came up with a very smart solution using a large language models, we want to know the prompt.
Okay, Define came up with a solution. If I have an idea, okay, first of all, I don't think it's binary. Like I solved the problem. I have an idea, say, I don't know, I had a news flash that the killer feature that's gonna make all the difference, say I have a whatever time series, and each time series is accompanied, to stick with the retail example, by an image. And I came up with an idea. Actually, we can extract the attributes from the image and use it as extra features to my XGBoost or whatever. And then I used an LLM to generate the entire pipeline and all the whatever, boilerplate. And I know what I'm doing. I know what I'm done a step of the way, but I've done. I physically, Conrad, have written a tiny percentage of the code. Code was generated itself. And I verified.
Here's the big thing that people don't understand. Like a machine learning model is not the same thing as code. So if you think the code is the model, then you pretty much don't understand what machine learning models are all about. So like some of the best models I've ever built were just like few lines of code, but the code is not a model. And this is where I kind of get in trouble with all these very software engineering kind of types, which think that you have to have whole GitHub library before it's actually considered like a good solution. And it's not.
And
a lot of times it's a very simple insight that really gets you across the line. And then like the code is irrelevant. Code is not really what makes a good solution.
I agree. But then that actually reinforces my original point. I generated most of the scaffolding with an LLM because I couldn't be bloody bothered to write the code that handles all the exceptions and colors and wrong formats and whatnot. Is it my solution or is it LLM solution or is it a hybrid? Because I know what I'm doing, so I automated the parts that are soul-destroyingly boring. That's it. My main point is, in a apology, shit, maybe I am an LLM. I'm forgetting my point and I'm using too many words to say it. Maybe I am an LLM, actually.
You're like metaphors as well.
Your context window.
Hey, I'm not getting younger, so the context window is not expanding. I'm sorry.
I know very well too.
But the point is, I don't think it's binary. Honestly, if someone had an idea, use the machine to automate the parts that, like I said, maybe that person finds those parts as boring as I do, and as annoying to write, and they know what they're talking and they can defend the idea, then honestly, do we really care if an LLM was involved? They built it, it works, and they know how to defend it. They understand the strong and weak points. Do I really care whether they used an LLM to speed up along the way or not?
Yeah, someone said that on LinkedIn as well, that for some folks, an LLM generated solution might not be correct, but it could help them get started.
In general, yes, unless you are talking about sensitive applications, starting with anything that deals with security. Like, simplest example, I haven't tested it with like Gemini free and that cohort. I was messing with that stuff last year. But you say you need to hash something because you have sensitive data. GPT, whichever one it was at the time, 4 I think just about came out, was using MD5 as a hashing function by default. It works. The code executes. It produces.
Yeah.
It's just that I am no cybersecurity expert, and even I know MD5 is a crappy function because it's invertible. And which means, but if someone built it and they know it, they corrected this part, it's still legit.
Yeah.
But you need to understand, which kind of circles back nicely to you need to understand at least a little bit about your domain. Like even the basics. MD5 is a lousy hash function. Sorry, I shut up because I feel like I'm monopolizing the airway.
No,
No
I think-
worries, correct.
yeah.
Actually,
I think we
if they can won
yeah.
a competition using LLM, means they
Mhm.
did the right things. Because basically, you just go naive prompting, you won't get very far. You will get something that works. Probably will be like vulnerabilities, problems. There are always something that's not working that you have to spot on and remove or solve by yourself. But if we were able to win a competition by using LLM, okay, why do you worry about that? As then what prompt they use, what strategy, because it means anyway, there's some very complex thought interaction. So after all, they are tools, right? And if we know to use the tools, no matter is, a book, an LLM or whatever, a search engine, we know how to use them, we know how to solve problems. So although do not worry too much if they use large language models, if they did some egregious work, there's something behind.
Yeah, and I think Aditya rightly mentions on LinkedIn as well, like just get started, guys. Don't wait for the perfect moment or a specific skill set. I think that's it hits the nail right on the head. And so we've got a few 5 to 10 minutes left, and if anyone has any queries, y'all can just go on. Oh, Andre's already pre-ordered the book. Congratulations, Andre. I was just going to do the last raffle, and I was hoping that one of you would get picked up, but congrats, you've ordered the book already. I'll do the last raffle now, and then we'll just take some closing thoughts from all of you. If you still haven't added in hashtag packed, go for it. This is your time. I'll give you a few more seconds before I get on the screen. So yeah, our first winner was Walter Reed, and I can see on my phone that Walter has already got in touch with me on LinkedIn. Thank you, Walter.
I thought for a moment that meant Walter won twice.
Oh no. But thankfully, there is an option that the same person cannot be picked twice.
I
You
mean,
don't have to
maybe
get embarrassing.
it's, I don't know, second copy for a doorstop or something.
Ebook, no stop. We'll have to give you an entire CPU over there.
Kara, I remember, a lot of Japanese readers complain about the first edition. It was too large, too big, too thick. What will we say about the second edition?
This is way bigger. Congratulations, Fabio.
I'll be blunt, Luca. Congratulations, Fabio. Luca, luckily for me, I don't speak Japanese, so no matter how angry they get, I will not understand.
Okay.
Congratulations, Fabio. Jimenez, please get in touch with me on LinkedIn. Just send me a connection request and your email address, and I'll get you your book. Congrats. And we'll just take one final query. I think this is absolutely relevant for this Kaggle discussion. So, what do you recommend one should focus on to land a data science, machine learning related internship? The Kaggle book, second edition. No, sorry, go on.
Guys,
Luca, why not?
Build a portfolio. We teach that in the book, and Kaggle is the right place to build a meaningful portfolio. So, I mean, there are playgrounds, but they are, the standard, but there are many, many competitions which can make unique your value proposition. So go to Kaggle, take part into challenging competition, build a very interesting portfolio showing how you can code and solve problems.
Perfect.
Park some of that, addendum to that, park some of what you build there separately in a GitHub, because realistically, I mean, in a perfect world, just throwing your Kaggle profile at somebody should work. But well, It's better.
Yeah.
I know. I said in a perfect word for a reason.
Yeah.
Uh,
You want make a website,
make a
with
website.
GitHub.
Hell,
You
use an LLM to build a website where you demonstrate what you're doing.
There are so many examples, actually.
No, Maria Sukhareva, the one behind the AI Realist, she literally had like a webinar where she did a horse race. Claude, ChatGPT, Gemini, and I can't remember what the fourth one was, Kimi, I think. Which one is going to build the best website, like just by prompting, under the assumption that you have no clue. So, hey, this is the era of possibilities. In the spirit of the meme, I was there, Gandalf, 3,000 years ago. When we started,
I like that a lot.
it's an awesome one. I'm using it a lot these days.
And
when we
Elron
started,
also should have added, I didn't do anything.
What is that?
It was I didn't do anything.
Okay, I'm going to shut up and hand over to Boyan.
Well, I would actually tell you what not to do, and what not to do is kind of harass people who could give you internships online. So, like, I've seen some really bad cases of that, trying to get into people's direct messages without really any kind of context. Or the worst example of that I've seen recently, someone use Nano Banana to kind of Photoshop an edit of executive at one of the big tech companies to put himself in that image and kind of say like, hey, can I get an internship? Look, it was great seeing you the other day. So do not do that. So these are kind of no-nos, like don't kind of be, yes. It was funny, but on the other hand, like this is kind of a little bit cringy, and please do not do so.
Yeah. I think the nots are as important as the do's. But yeah, all right.
Yeah.
So as all of you can see, in the festive spirit and in the spirit of the Christmas season, we've got our borders over here. So, gentlemen, would you like to share any closing thoughts in the festive season and spirit?
My closing thought is just do it. So if you're on the fence about starting a project, joining Kaggle or building any kind of portfolio, do not think that whatever you're doing is too lowly or too insignificant. Ancient Chinese proverb, like even a 1,000-mile trip starts with the first step. Start doing it. And the whole tech community in general is very forgiving and very kind of indulging of people who are just kind of beginning on their journeys.
Yes, Kaggle is not Stack Overflow.
No.
Yeah.
People do not start by hating beginners by default. So keep that in mind.
Not even Reddit. In today's day and age, Reddit would be more relevant.
Yes. And Boyan, I would add, be curious, because since Kaggle is open, it offers plenty of opportunities of trying problems, data, situation you probably cannot see in a normal working environment or, in your study course. So be curious, because there's a lot of things to be done and learn from Kaggle.
And don't get intimidated by people with, whose experience section in the CV is longer than your entire profile. Don't get intimidated by them. I can't remember who said it, that science progresses one funeral at a time.
Yeah.
And I think Hinton said at one point that, the guy who invented backpropagation, let's not dwell into the, certain controversies around him. And he said that
there's a German
listen,
who has different opinions.
Americans pick something up. Frequently, there's either a German or a Russian whose work
is very pumped
earlier.
Now,
I think it's Swiss.
I know. Yes.
The nice Germans, yeah. Swimming back to shore, and Hinton said that the future. This was some big prestigious talk. I can't remember where he gave it, and he said the future of AI is some 17-year-old who is listening to me right now. I'm summarizing my own words and going like, "Now this guy's full of it. I can do better." And Hinton said that. Okay, if on his level. If he says that, he probably knows on this topic, he probably knows what he's talking about. So don't get intimidated. Don't get intimidated. You can start. Maybe you're going to find out, actually, I bloody hate anything with vision, but tabular data is my thing. Or maybe you're like, I love text, but I hate time series. Or or whatever other combination that does not occur to me, don't get intimidated. Get into it. Well, and keep in mind that there is life outside of Kaggle, which occasionally you need to remind yourself about.
Yeah, and like Boyan's catchphrase, the catchphrase for this session definitely is cross-validation is a secret for a better model. It came up the most in the entire session. If I had a word cloud with a transcript of this session, cross-validation would be right up there. And yes, thank you, Brett.
I would like to
really
add
for your advice.
with feature engineering.
Oh, that's the first time it appeared, but yeah, feature engineering.
Yeah, that's probably a byproduct of our cumulative, 3,000 years of experience. Because feature engineering pretty much, well, you don't get very far without feature engineering. So actually, it's a good point. That's a blind spot for all three of us, because that's something so obvious to us that I think we forgot to actually discuss that.
Yeah.
But it is definitely discussed in the book, so do check it out. And on that note, Merry Christmas, everyone.
Merry Christmas, everyone.
Merry Christmas.
And Happy New Year. And
Yes.
we will definitely see you very, very soon. Gentlemen, I hope you enjoy your holidays, time off with your family, friends, and all of you watching as well. And on that note, bye-bye.
Yes.
Bye.
Thank you for joining
Thank you,
us.
everyone. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for coming. Yes.